So you're finally sick and tired of living paycheck to paycheck in your regular 9-to-5 job. You don't want to have anything else to do with this 9-to-5 rat race, do you? You just had an epiphany and you know that you want to build your life to financial freedom. So what do? You gotta watch this video right now. Why? Because I'm going to show you the 9 exact steps that you need to take today in order to build the path to financial freedom. So, what actually is the rat race? Well, let me tell you that the rat race is basically a pointless chase where humans just keep grinding and they keep working the 9-to-5 in a job that's not fulfilling, it's not fun, it's boring, the people don't like it, and all they get is money. That's it. What are you doing? You're trading your time for money. Now, if you love your job, that's awesome. Good for you. But let me tell you that in a recent survey, there are about 80% of Americans that do not like their job, and they're still in it. That's called the rat race. If you're one of those people, I get it, because that was me too. Way back in the day when I was doing my corporate job. Not anymore. Right now, I'm building my own business, and I'm going to show you in this video the exact steps that I took and that millions of other people can take now to build the life that they actually want. What does it actually mean to escape the rat race? Well, number one, you actually have flexibility. You don't have to work in an office. You don't have to drive to the office every single day for 1 hour stuck in traffic, 1 hour stuck in traffic going back. No, you get to do work anywhere, anytime, which is the second piece here, that you want. Why? Because you have the freedom to determine your life. You're not bound by your boss, right? Not anymore. 3, you actually have an energizing work-life balance. You don't come home drained after work. I know I used to in my corporate job. Number 4, you actually get to spend time with your family, with your kids, or with your friends. You don't actually have to completely arrange your family time around your work schedule. This time, you get to arrange your work schedule around your family time. My 9-step guide is going to literally show you the roadmap to get from point A, which is the rat race, to point B, which is building the life that you've always wanted. Number 1, you want to write down every single goal of yours. I'm talking the goal that you have for tonight for dinner. I'm talking about the goal that you have tomorrow, meeting your friends or talking with your business partner. And I'm talking about that goal that you have 10 years down the road, all right? I don't care what it is, you write it down. Take a pencil and a piece of paper right now, put it in front of you, and I want you to number it. I want you to number it 1 to 10, and I want you to write down 3 columns. The first column is going to say now. The next column, the second column, is going to say soon. And the third column is going to say later. And I want you to list your top 10 goals in each column that you have for right now, being today, being next week, being maybe this month or in the next few months. The next column, the soon column, you're gonna write down your goals for the next 2 to maybe next 5 years or so. And finally, in the last column, the later column, we're gonna talk about those long-term goals, buying a house in the next 5 years, founding a family in the next 5 to 10 years, building your own business in the next 10 years, or maybe selling your business for $10 million or more. Who knows? Dare to reach in your goals, right? Don't be just realistic. Be imaginative. Really think of what could be and write that down. In fact, scientists have proven if you write down your goals, your mind is much more likely to track and visualize the goals because it's already written on paper. You are much more likely to stick to those goals now than ever before. The second step that you want to do for this 9-step process is creating a budget. A budget is a simple tool that can literally track how much is coming into your income and how much is going out of your income. But it's actually one of the tools that helped me help one of my mentees find $37,000 within just a few minutes. Why? Because we were meticulous. We wrote down every single income down to the cent. I kid you not. This budget helped us, number one, pinpoint where the money was going. Number two, it helped us identify the areas that we can cut down. And number three, we were actually able to trim the fat, meaning trimming the excess spending. And that literally leads us to step number three, which is trimming the fat, right? Trimming the fat is all about looking at your budget and then actually figuring out which expenses you don't need. So, for example, you can cut out expenses like going to the mall and shopping. It could mean maybe cutting out a vacation time or a girls' trip, something that costs a lot of money, or maybe finding alternatives. So, for example, one of my friends used to go to as many weddings as possible. For example, she went to up to 8 weddings in 1 year. Typically, it costs a lot of money, right? In terms of buying the gifts, maybe even travel expenses, bachelorette parties, etc. However, if you want to trim the fat, maybe a suggestion could be to look at alternatives. Instead of buying that really expensive vase or silverware, something like that, get a homemade gift. Number one, it's cheaper, and number two, it often means a lot more because it's coming from the heart than going to a store and buying something. That could be an alternative. Step 4 is getting a side hustle. A side hustle is basically a job that is in addition to your primary job, that 9-to-5 rat race. And believe it or not, your side hustle could actually help you escape from the rat race. There are many instances where your 9-to-5 actually pays less than your side hustle. Now, full disclaimer, that might actually take a few years for your side hustle income to exceed, to grow larger than your primary job income. But it works, and people have done it before. In fact, that's why I was able to quit my 9-to-5 and escape the rat race. I built up my blog. I built up my social media presence on Twitter, for example. I used these incredible guides out there on how to make money and actually build a social media presence on platforms like Twitter. And now it's like my 9-to-5 job income does not match what I'm making through my side hustle, which is now my primary job. You can do that too. It takes a lot of time though, and you really have to be structured. In other words, you need to be able to set your own schedule, right? You need to be able to say, all right, today I'm waking up at this time, I'm gonna work on these things, and I'm gonna work on them until they're done, and not be distracted by all those things going on. If you're someone like that, you can probably escape the 9-to-5 rat race in the next few years, trust me. If I've done it, you can do it too. Step 5 is paying off debt. Now, no one likes debt, right? But as the proverbial saying goes, there's either smart debt or there's bad debt. Now, we want to focus on the bad debt here. We don't really care about smart debt, and I'll tell you what the difference is. Smart debt is debt that typically has lower interest rates. So for example, a mortgage. Typically mortgages, at least before 2022, they had interest rates of around 3%, roughly, 4% maybe. So that's low interest debt. Or your car loan. Oftentimes, car loans, they have pretty low rates too, like 2%, 3%, 4%. That's low. That's pretty much smart debt. All right, let's not focus on that. Let's focus on bad debt. What is bad debt? Bad debt is oftentimes credit card debt. Interest rates are like 24% on average. Another thing, payday loans. You don't want that. Get rid of those payday loans. Another thing is personal loans. Maybe you wanted to buy that PlayStation 5, all your friends have it, you gotta get it. You don't have the money, but you got a personal loan for it. Those interest rates are typically really high, and you're oftentimes getting stuff that is depreciating. Step 6 is building an emergency savings fund. An emergency savings fund is essentially a liquid account where you can literally go in, you can deposit anything you want, you can take out money. There's no restriction. It's all cash. Now, an emergency savings fund, like the name says, is for emergencies only. So that doesn't mean when you go on a trip, for example, you need extra money, you dip into your emergency savings fund. Don't do that. That's not what it's meant for. An emergency savings fund is actually for emergencies. You have an emergency vet visit. You have a flat tire. You need a new roof. Things that actually need attention ASAP, right now. that's when you go to your emergency savings fund. Now, typically you want to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved in your emergency savings fund. Once you have the number, start building up your emergency savings fund. And the best way to do that is by getting a high yield savings account. That is where you can get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of interest rates. You put in, let's say, $10,000 into your high yield savings account, and they're gonna pay you, right now at least in early 2023, about 4%, if not more. And that's a lot of money, right? So that would normally earn 0% in a savings account. So if you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, use your side hustle money. After you pay off your debt, put that into an emergency savings fund. And more so, put it into a high yield savings account. You will make so much money in the long run. Step 7, it's time to start investing the rest. If you've paid off your debt, if you've added to your emergency savings fund, and you've really tracked your budget, you're ready with all of this, start investing. That is how you build the best financial path to freedom. You build generational wealth that way. Now, how do you invest the money? I'm not talking about options trading. I'm not talking about structured debt. I'm not talking about hedge funds or shorts or anything like that. Yes, it's very fancy. It's very exciting. It's very sexy. We don't want sexy. We want boring. We want straightforward. We want the Warren Buffett approach. That's what I practice, and that's what I'm going to preach. Now, the Warren Buffett approach. What is it? It is a simple way to make money in the long run. And I want to underline that, the long run. That means not today, we're not day traders. That does not mean next week. It means 10, 20, 50 years from now. We're really looking in the long run. Now, what do? Honestly, Warren Buffett and I also say that the best way to build long-term wealth is simply through index funds. Index funds, they literally track an index, which is basically a basket of a bunch of different stocks or bonds, for example. Now, the most popular index is probably the S&P 500 index fund. The S&P 500, like the name says, has the 500 best companies in America. So it has Apple, Microsoft, Google, etc. All of those companies, they're literally wrapped in this S&P 500 fund. If you buy an index, you simply buy one fund, and that one fund invests your money across 500 different companies. Talk about diversification, right? Not only that, index funds, they're typically low cost, they're passive, and it's really not a lot of stress for you. That's why I always advocate for index funds. Now, again, if we're looking in the long run, this is how you build generational wealth. Index funds work. They might not be sexy, but they work. Step number 8 is get an accountability partner. Have you ever heard of that term? An accountability partner is someone who actually makes sure you're on track. So for example, for me, if I set a goal, so we're going back to step number 1, if I actually take pencil and paper and I write down my goal and I say, hey, in the next 5 years, I plan to save $200,000. I'm gonna tell that to my husband. And the reason why is because he is my number 1 accountability partner. He's gonna make sure that I'm on track to save that $200,000. Now, if you don't have a partner, that's totally fine. Look at your friend, look at your parents, look at a close family friend or a mentor maybe, or maybe even a work colleague. The point is, find someone that you trust. Tell them about your goal and ask them to check in with you every so often. That could be every week, every month, or every year, or quarter even. They need to make sure that you are on track to accomplish that goal, even when life throws its curveballs. And trust me, life throws curveballs. I've experienced it too. Now, they're gonna ask you questions like, hey Sarah, are you still on track to buying your house? And if you say no, they're gonna see what you need to do in order to make that goal happen. Accountability partners are like a positive form of social peer pressure, right? You get another person involved or multiple people in your life to make sure that you are doing what you gotta do. And it works, trust me. Step 9 is just baby steps. What do I mean by baby steps? I mean that you cannot build $1 million empire from 9 a.m. today to 9 a.m. tomorrow. Unless, of course, you get an inheritance or you win the lottery. But let's just kind of move those ideas aside. You probably won't be able to do that. Why? Because it takes time. Time is so valuable, and especially when it comes to building generational wealth and building your path to financial freedom, you need time. And that's why it's probably not gonna happen tomorrow. How can we break that down? Well, think about it. If we have 5 years and our goal is to save $200,000 in 5 years, what's 200,000 divided by 5? That's $40,000 a year. So that's pretty doable, right? $40,000 a year. Let's break it down one more step. What's 40,000 divided by 12? That's $3,333.33. Okay, so that's how much you have to save per month. Let's break this down into another baby step. How much does that mean you have to save per week? The answer is $833.33. So every single week you have to save $833.33 in order to save a total of $200,000 in 5 years. So how much do you have to save every single day? If we break it down one step further, the answer is $119.04 a day. What does that mean per hour? It means you need to save $4.96 an hour in order to get to your $200,000 goal in 5 years. Talk about going into baby steps, right? I mean, if you think about it, can you save an extra $4.96 an hour? It sounds a lot more doable than saying, can you save $200,000 in 5 years, right? Why? Because it's actionable. We can understand how $4.96 looks like. Oftentimes, we cannot understand how $200,000 looks like. And the reason why is because most of us have never seen a physical $200,000 number, right? It's very hard to visualize. But most of us have had change for $4.96 or $5. So we know what we're dealing with. And that is the powerful goal with step number 9, baby steps. It works every time. It doesn't have to be with money either. Baby steps can be for relationship goals. It can be for career goals. It can be for academic goals. Baby steps works. Now, if you've gotten this far, then you're clearly in the top 1% and you're determined to escape the rat race and build the life that you've always wanted. In my email list, I send weekly secret tips on strategies just like these 9 steps today on how you can build the life that you've always wanted. So if you scroll to the description right now, you can either click on the link or go to my website, themillennialmoneywoman.com, and subscribe to my email newsletter. Until then, I'll see you guys later.